Hello and welcome to another episode of The Mark Medley Show. And I tell you, this has been a banner day for me. And I say that because normally I'm energetic by nature. I guess I have a high metabolism, or just always have been very energetic. But some days are higher energy than others, and today was one of those days, and it was that way because it turned out to be a spontaneous day. There were things that I did today that I hadn't planned on doing today. As a matter of fact, when I got up this morning, I had no intentions of doing what occurred today. And what I say by that, I mean, I had been in training this week in New York, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I was on vacation on Monday, and I'm on vacation on today. And I woke up this morning, and I was going through some things, and I came across a gift admission or a gift card that my daughter had given me not this last Christmas, but Christmas before last, nearly 2 years ago. And she gave me this particular admission because she knows her dad loves aircraft, airplanes, aviation. So she gave him a free admission, or she paid for an admission for him to go to the Intrepid Air and Space Museum in New York. So as I picked that up and looked at that this morning, I said, the weather's great out. I'm off. Don't have anything planned. You know what? I'm going to the museum today. Now, mind you, the certificate or the gift card or the gift admission, as I said, was a year ago last Christmas. This Christmas would have made 2 years. But the admission was a gift card and it was still good. So I looked online and it showed me different parking lots around the area. I put in my GPS, the parking lot, and I made my way over to Manhattan. Parked in the lot. It was right across the street from the Intrepid. Walked over, walked in, and had an absolute blast. I took so many pictures that is ridiculous. I had fun unreal, and I was by myself because my wife had to work. The kids are doing their own thing. My daughter had only given me admission for one anyway. So I was on my own, and I was by myself, and I loved it. It was a spontaneous trip. I was off for the day. And it also caused me to be reflective. Because as I was walking back to the parking lot after a wonderful day in the museum, the weather was so nice, I said, you know what? It looks like today would be a great day for a bicycle ride. I hadn't been on my bike in a little while. And I said, today would be a great day for a ride. So when I got home, soon as I got home, changed into my biking gear, got on my bicycle and rode over 20 miles. But again, even that gave me an opportunity to reflect as I was riding. And it brought up some of the thoughts that I'm going to talk about in today's podcast. Because the title of this podcast is, You Can Take Life and People for Granted If You Want to, but you'll regret it. And I say that to say, we must live life to the fullest. I end my radio show each week. At the end of the show, I close out the show with, may you live as long as you want and not want as long as you live. Live each day as if it were your last, because guess what? One day, regardless of who you are or who you are not, regardless of your title or your race, your color, your gender, your sexual orientation, your beliefs, one day that equalizer called death is going to come. And I thought about how people treat each other, because I was posting on Facebook all day along those lines of, we don't have as much time as we think. So while we're running around here treating folks nasty, particularly couples in relationships, because I witnessed 34 years ago the sudden death of my father to a massive heart attack at the age of 48. That was the love of my mother's life. totally unexpected. And I say all this to say, if you have a partner or a significant other, you better show as much affection as you can while you can, because you don't know when that partner could be snatched from you by force, not from another woman or another man, but by death. So while you may think you have time and you can run around here giving folks the silent treatment and talking in any old kind of tone and treating them any old kind of way, you better think twice about that, because you never know when that partner may not be with you anymore. As I shared with you, I was in training all week this week, or shall I say Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and a part of that training had an African ritual and routine called libation. And during libation, you pour water into a plant. After you've said what you wanted to say in reference to the ancestors or someone you love, or a relative, or a friend, or a family member, or just something going on in current events. So it was this brother that was leading the libation. He had already given a libation about how grateful we ought to be for life. He'd given that the day prior, that we ought to be grateful and thankful for every second and moment that we have, because we don't know when we will no longer have it. So sure enough, the next day comes, and he gives libation, and he had to go on and explain how he was listening to the news and how someone was walking across the street and had gotten hit by a car. Someone was killed in a hit-and-run accident. Then he went on to share another news story of a drive-by shooting of a child who had gotten injured or killed. And he went on to say how we get up in the morning and we take for granted that we're going to make it to our destination. We take for granted that we're going to get from our house to our location, and the truth of the matter is, it's not promised to us. I shared with you either here or either on my radio show about a month or so ago about an 11-year-old girl. Her name was Mackenzie Brooks. She was struggling with cancer. She was battling cancer, and sure enough, Mackenzie passed away. 11. Can you imagine being 11 years old and being told by the doctors, most likely, bar a miracle, you're not going to make 12? Sure enough, Mackenzie did not make 12. And yet there are those running around here with all kinds of sour attitudes, being ungrateful, treating people any kind of way. I'll give you another example, and I hope my sister doesn't mind sharing this, because she's been struggling with issues that are associated with diabetes. And one of them is a form of neuralgia, where the nerves in your feet and hands and things like that, for the most part, become damaged. Well, as a result of the diabetes, the form that she has, her feet are constantly hurting, constantly. Noon, evening, morning, trying to sleep, her feet are constantly hurting. And she was sharing with me as we talked yesterday that, oh, if my feet could just be normal again. I can't even remember what it feels like for my feet to feel normal, because all they do is hurt. She's to the point now, and she's younger than I am, where she can only stand for 20 minutes at a time or walk for no more than 20 minutes before her feet and legs begin to swell up, or she has to get off of them. See, we take things for granted. We take things that things are always going to be like they are, and yet there is no promise that it's going to be. So I am admonishing and recommending. You got some loved ones, you better love them. You better show them some affection. You better speak, not be disrespectful, because you don't know when they're not going to be there any longer. You don't know when the body is going to break down. I was riding my bike today, and I saw some of the finest cars going, and what came to mind is I know people who have some of the finest luxury cars going who have had strokes and can no longer drive them. BMWs, Mercedes, Maybachs, you name it, they've had it. An illness like a stroke has now caused them not to be able to drive and enjoy that car. Take life for granted and people for granted if you want to. You'll regret it. I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not any of those things. But I do know this. You're going to wish you had treated people right when you had the opportunity, particularly if something happens to them or if you get ill yourself. And this doesn't apply just to partners in romantic relationships. This doesn't apply just to husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, boyfriends and boyfriends, girlfriends and girlfriends. This doesn't apply just for that. It also applies on children-parent relationship, because I also know personally of children who have nothing to do with their parents. I also know of parents who have nothing to do with their children. That's sad. So go ahead, take life for granted if you take people for granted if you want to. You'll regret it. That's the title of this particular podcast. And today, in spontaneity and just having a good time doing my own thing, if you will, caused me to be very reflective. See, because I don't have a problem with silence. That's another thing. As I've gotten older, silence is more precious to me than ever. I don't have to be around a lot of people talking. Matter of fact, I would prefer not to be around a lot of people talking. I would prefer to be somewhere quiet, either listening to some soft jazz or soft classical music, if anything, or somewhere reading or just doing something quiet, sitting down, observing. Don't have to be a lot of talk. Don't have to be a lot of words said, a lot of talk, a lot of noise. Just get quiet and reflect. Get quiet and observe. Get quiet and think. Get quiet and be grateful for the blessings that you do have, because guess what? There are some folks out there who have it worse than you do. You think you have it bad? There are some folks out there who have it way worse than you. You think you're poor? Go to another country and the poor that's here is rich to them. Take life for granted, and people, if you want to, you'll regret it. Again, I'm going to keep emphasizing that because that is the title of this particular podcast. Like I said, for me, it was a banner day. Woke up, went over to New York, went to the museum, came back, rode my bike. I said I was going to do the podcast tonight before the night was over. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, God willing, to go do my radio show. Matter of fact, I encourage you to tune in on Saturday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m. as I web stream around the world on GoBrave.org. That's GOBRAVE.org. Also heard locally in the northern New Jersey and New York area on WP 88.7 FM radio. Like I said, I've been putting different posts on Facebook, and I love the fact that, and I get a kick out of the fact that the little post box on Facebook says, "What's on your mind?" And I can tell you right now, I have absolutely no problem with putting on Facebook or saying on Facebook what's on my mind. As a matter of fact, another post that I had on there today, I said that little "what's on your mind" box is just like if you ever watch the show Frasier. It's like when Frasier Crane says, "I'm listening." Well, it's almost like Facebook is saying, "I'm listening." Again, don't take folks for granted. Don't be disrespectful to them. Tone, body language, facial expressions, because you never know when it's going to be the last time you see them. My goal is to live to be 100 and healthy. I don't know what God's plans are. I most likely have more days behind me than I do in front of me. Even if I make that goal of 100, that's still less days in front of me than I have behind me. So we don't know when. So time is out. We don't have time to be nasty with each other. We don't have time to be disrespectful with each other. We don't have time for these sour tones with each other. We don't have time for that because we don't know when. As that brother that was given libation said the other day, those people, that lady or man or whoever it was that was killed in that hit and run accident, woke up that morning and was on their way to his or her destination. That young lady that was hit in that drive-by, who was just minding her own business. So just because you get up in the morning and you start on your destination does not necessarily mean you have to make it. So we need to appreciate every moment that we have, every moment that God has given. We need to appreciate it. Do we have struggles? Yes, we do. Do we have challenges? Yes, we do. It's how you respond to those challenges. I shared the story with you about my sister with her feet. And that touched me when she said, "Oh, if I could just feel or have my feet feel normal again. I've forgotten what it feels like for my feet to feel normal. And here I am, her brother, with full of energy all over the place. But I never know when. You never know when. Keep slighting people if you want to. Keep being nasty with people if you want to. Keep thinking that you're spiting and hurting somebody else, or keep doing it if you want to. That's all I'm going to tell you. For some folks, they have to get burned. So for some folks, they got to go through that in order for them to see, wow, I shouldn't have done that. But if you're wise, if you've listened to this podcast, and you can hear the passion in my voice, time is running out. Time is running out. We don't have it. So the best bet is to love everybody, particularly whoever your romantic partner is. Like I said earlier, you cannot show enough affection. You need to be as affectionate as you can for as much as you can, because we don't know when. Just keep that in mind. All right, as I said, you can catch me live on Saturday mornings. The Reading Circle with your host, Mark Medley, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I web stream around the world on gobrave.org, GOBRAVE.org. It's also heard locally on FM radio 88.7 FM. I also have a blog. It's called The Critical Thinker. You can get that by going to thereadingcircleblog.blogspot.com. And you can, if you can't remember all of this that I've been saying, you go to my website, and it's the hub or the portal to everything. The website is my name, MarcAmedley.com, markamedley.com. Go there. It's the portal to everything that I've talked about, the radio show, podcast, the blog, more information about services I can offer you. There's links to my social media. So just go to markamedley.com and that'll take you everywhere else. Thanks for listening. And again, we don't have as much time as we think we do.